Congressman Thomas Massie has already stockpiled nearly $2 million for his re-election campaign in the 4th District, despite his public clashes with President Trump. Kentucky's 4th District Congressman was one of 2 House Republicans to vote against Trump's massive tax bill. He also criticized the president for bombing Iranian nuclear sites without congressional approval. Meanwhile, a new political fundraising arm run by Trump, insiders called MAGA Kentucky, is devoted to defeating Massie in next year's primary. The group has already spent more than $1 million on ads attacking Massie, but they've yet to endorse a candidate. I'll talk about the U.S. Senate fundraising numbers with Trey Grayson and Bob Babbage during our Inside Kentucky Politics segment coming up. Time now to go inside Kentucky politics, where we talk about a couple of major political developments this week. And we have our good friends and frequent KET political commentators with us. You see Trey Grayson on screen left and Bob Babbage on screen right. So good to have both of you. Get the band back together again. We've had a little hiatus here, so hope you're having a great summer. Let's start with the U.S. Senate race. And we learned today through some reporting from Tom Loftus in the Kentucky Lantern about Andy Barr's fundraising machine that he is. He's got $6.1 million on hand as of June 30th. Right now, Daniel Cameron has $532,000 on hand. So is Barr just a fundraising machine? And what is Daniel Cameron doing? How would you contextualize this for us, Trey Grayson?
Barr really is a fundraising machine. Now, the reality of the race is he needs it. He's well known in the 6th District, Central Kentucky, and a little bit in the 5th District because a lot of the folks in 5th District watch Lexington media, and so they would have picked up on Andy Barr. But he's not very well known in the rest of the state, so he needs more money than Daniel Cameron for this race. But it shows that Barr is putting the money in. He's got some high-profile donors. They're across the country and across the state. Cameron notably actually went down from quarter 1 to quarter 2, even though he had a full quarter to raise money. It's a disappointing quarter. The race is certainly not over, and if it were held today, Cameron would win because people know him better. But when you're looking at this, it's clear that Barr's got momentum, and that will probably help him attract more contributions, more volunteers, more endorsements as he's crisscrossing the state to try to introduce himself to people.
So, Bob Babbage, what does Daniel Cameron need to start doing or do better at this particular juncture?
He probably needs to raise $1 million in this next period for sure and make an impact with the money, even though his popularity is significant. Every Republican of any standing on a local committee or activist met Daniel Cameron over the last several years. So he does have that edge that Trey talks about. You still have to fund the race. It's a small business. You've got to fund it. You've got to execute the spending right and reach other places that that give you a chance to win. We don't have any polls right now, although we love to see those numbers. We have spending reports. Polls have margin of error. Spending reports,
no error.
Nail it to the penny. And when you see these numbers, they definitely build the notion that Barr is ahead. People want to be for the winner, and right now to have a 12-to-1 lead in fundraising, money on hand is a big break for Barr.
I want to have you respond to something that Trey said about Andy Barr's name recognition compared to Daniel Cameron. I mean, Daniel Cameron is not currently on the political scene, and Andy Barr is frequently in the headlines, making news and being a part of very pivotal votes in Washington. So can you square why we would think that maybe Barr needs to have more name recognition build up than Daniel Cameron, who is not currently in the political space, at least actively as Barr is?
Right. We talk about all our political leaders in Kentucky like we know them, and we do to an extent, but you don't know Barr as well as you would know Rand Paul or Mitch McConnell because of the fact they're statewide. He has a great media market in Central Kentucky that goes even beyond Central Kentucky that helps him get started. But go to Allen County or go to Owsley County. These are places where Daniel Cameron probably made a stop, probably knows people, and has made the pitch before, and his likability has come across. So to catch up with him on name, you've got to outspend him or figure out some way to do that. To be in Congress and to run for a statewide office is very challenging because you're zipping in here all the time. Cameron's here. He can work the call room all day and go to an event at night. That's just the makeup of this. But Barr's getting around. He's talked about lately how he made all these 4th of July parades, still voted in Washington, and kept the momentum.
Yeah.
He's got it going.
Well, we still have another name to mention, Trey Grayson, and that is Nate Morris, who's a wealthy businessman. And we know that he did not register his campaign with the Election Commission until July 1st. And so he didn't have to report. But do we know how much he could bring to the table when it comes to financial coffers for his campaign?
Well, Morris has something that the other two don't have, is the ability to put his own money into the race. It's not clear how much he could put in, but there's a belief that he could put 6-7 figures of his own money in. He's also very closely connected with the vice president and with the president's son, Don Jr. When he had his rollout of his campaign, the official rollout, I mean, we've been talking about him for several months as a candidate, but when he had it, I think it was in Elizabethtown, or it was Bullitt County, Charlie Kirk, one of the biggest national personalities in the Republican Party right now, who founded and leads Turning Point, was there, and he had a large crowd. Morris is going to be a factor. He should have enough money to compete, but if Barr has name recognition challenges in Owsley, Allen, and Jefferson County, Morris has it everywhere. People don't know who he is yet, but that's, again, like Bob said, it's a small business. You fund the campaign through donors, through your own money, and then you duke it out with your messaging.
Yeah. So let's talk in the next couple of minutes about another race, and this is the 6th district race, that which Barr is forfeiting that seat to run for U.S. Senate, so it leaves it an open seat. And we have a new name that really is familiar to most of us, and that is Ralph Alvarado, who was a state senator, lieutenant governor candidate, and who was up until this week the commissioner of health for Tennessee. And we had interviewed him just a few weeks ago when we were there for the RX Summit down there in Nashville. So now he's getting into the race. Are you surprised by this, Bob Babbage?
Heard little rumblings of this, but didn't think it would happen. It has, so he is getting a lot of attention. That race has changed a lot in the last few days. Alvarado hasn't been in a place to raise money, but one of his challengers has been, and put $60,000 of his own funds in and raised $30,000 or $40,000 on top of it. We only vote in 6 elections every 4 years, and it's 3 primaries and 3 generals, but it really feels like we're running this year. I have people stop and say, are we voting this November? They're not quite as plugged in as you and I or Trey, but it feels like it because they're seeing so much and hearing so much. Yeah.
What do you say, Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I texted a little bit with Ralph when I first heard the news last week that he might be looking at the race, and it was clear that he was serious about it. He said, I think I can do more for healthcare in the Congress, and he'd maintained ties in Kentucky, even though he'd been in Tennessee the last couple of years. It's not a surprise that you interviewed him a few weeks ago, that he wanted to be interviewed by KET. I was probably even before he was thinking about running, but he's maintained his residency and still done some medical practice in Clark County. I think he's probably the favorite in the race. I mean, he's certainly not as well known as a state senator, as a member of, given the size of the district relative to his district, but he was a leader in the Kentucky State Senate. He was Matt Bevin's running mate in 2019, so that allowed him to meet more people. He's considered a health policy expert, and he immediately secured the endorsement of Damon Thayer. And I think you'll see a lot of the kind of traditional Republicans, the mainstream Republicans, rallying behind him. But, Ryan Dodson's got a strong group of endorsements from his colleagues in the House and from the social conservative part of the party. And then Deanna Gordon also went ahead and jumped in the race. I don't anticipate any meaningful Republicans beyond those 3 getting in. But you got to say Alvarado is the favorite. And I think he's the kind of candidate that if he does emerge from the primary, he'll be much harder to beat in a general election than probably Dodson or Gordon, just because of his, he's had tough general elections in the past. He picked up that seat. He beat R.J. Palmer to win that seat, 10 years ago. And so he's had battles in general elections. He's shown that electability. And I think he'll be a strong candidate in the fall of next year. But yeah, Bob, it does seem like we're having elections this year with everything going on.
It certainly does. And one real quick postscript right here, just for another 30 seconds. Where was Governor Andy Beshear this week, Trey Watson?
Well, Trey Grayson will tell you. Trey
Grayson. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that, Trey.
One Trey's as good as another.
Yeah. So this Trey knows how to spell his name, and he can also tell you that our governor was in South Carolina speaking at the state Democratic Party gathering in South Carolina. That's notable because South Carolina traditionally is one of the early primary states. I was in South Carolina a few weeks ago on vacation. He was in South Carolina running for president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any comment on that, Bob?
This is one voice got back in touch with me after meeting Governor Beshear in South Carolina, who's been traditionally a Republican, but he is a middle-of-the-road sort of person. He says, I want to be in the leadership down here for this guy for president. So that's the kind of impact he's making. I've heard the same kind of thing from folks in Indiana and Illinois. People with standing in the party think Andy Beshear is different. He's got a long way to go. This is a long trudge just to get through those steps and get to the primaries, to get to Iowa and be a factor there. But when you get that kind of feedback, it tells you that people are seeing something there that they like.
Yeah. Well, Trey, I have to apologize to the Watson for confusing you two. You know I know the difference. Thank you, Trey Grayson. Bob Babbage. Always a pleasure, guys.